often think about power as, something direct, something you grab or legislate.
By overt actions.
Exactly. But what if it's more subtle? Something you draw people into almost through fascination.
Mm-hmm. That's a really interesting way to frame it, because when you look back historically,
Yeah.
the dynamics, whether it's like personal relationships or big political things, they weren't always shaped by force. Often it was this art of attraction.
And that brings us to the material we're looking at today, this idea of seduction, but maybe broader than just romance.
Definitely broader.
Yeah.
The sources we have, especially the art of seduction, they look at it as a tool for influence, for power, really. It's a compelling perspective.
It is compelling.
Yeah.
And maybe a bit provocative for some.
Oh, for sure. Some of the ideas are unconventional, let's say.
Right. So it's important we stayed up front. We're exploring these ideas objectively, looking at what the sources say, not necessarily endorsing every tactic.
Absolutely. We're just reporting on the source material here. Our mission for this deep dive is really to unpack that, to understand the strategies, the observations about seduction as presented in these texts.
Looking at the history, the psychology.
Yeah, focusing on historical examples, the psychological insights, basically trying to figure out what these sources suggest about how humans interact, often beneath the surface.
Okay, let's get into it. The first archetype that jumps out from the reading is the Siren.
Ah, the Siren.
Yes. This seems to be about creating an aura, standing out, sparking fantasy.
That's the core of it. Projecting an image that's, well, more than everyday reality. It makes you think of those legendary figures, doesn't it?
Totally. The sources mention Bathsheba, Helen of Troy.
She, Cleopatra.
Cleopatra, of course. And what's fascinating is how deliberate it seems.
Very deliberate. Using appearance, yes, but also adornments, mannerisms.
Yeah.
Creating something almost godlike,
And it wasn't just about being beautiful, was it? The material mentions this, teasing element.
Exactly. Revealing just enough. Hinting. It ignites the imagination. It's not just physical beauty. It's about crafting this unattainable ideal, almost.
So the goal was to pull powerful men away from their usual stuff battles politics.
Into this other world. A world of pleasure, luxury, this sort of feminine realm. Think about Cleopatra and Caesar on that barge trip down the Nile.
Right, creating these unforgettable experiences.
But then comes the crucial twist for the Siren. That sudden coldness.
Yeah.
The withdrawal.
The push-pull. So just when they're hooked.
Bam, cut off. And that forces the pursuit. It makes these powerful men suddenly vulnerable, desperate to get that feeling back.
Wow. So even kings, generals, under this spell.
The source suggests it taps into this basic human fear of loss, right? You build up this intense connection, create an expectation.
And then yank it away.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the desire to get it back becomes even stronger than the initial pull.
And this wasn't just ancient history either. The Renaissance.
Right, figures like Tullia d'Aragona. The text says she consciously modeled herself on, Grecian goddesses, cultivating that image.
And the modern link is maybe film stars, those iconic screen goddesses.
Yeah, that's the parallel drawing.
Okay.
So the Siren strategy is kind of twofold.
Okay, step one. Craft this amazing, desirable, larger-than-life image.
And step two, maintain that elusiveness. Always leave them wanting a bit more. Keep him guessing.
Initiate the chase, but make them think it's all their idea.
You nailed it. That's the essence of the Siren, according to the sources.
Okay, next up, the ardent Rake. Totally different vibe here.
Oh yeah, a complete shift. This is about intense, almost overwhelming desire as the tactic.
How does that work? It seems so obvious.
Well, that's the clever part, isn't it? On the surface, it looks like pure impulsive passion, uncontrollable desire.
Right.
But the source material stresses there's often a calculation underneath. The Rake appears swept away, but that intensity is strategic. It's meant to bypass your usual defenses.
I'm so focused on you, I couldn't possibly be manipulating things.
Exactly. And the text makes a good point, even if someone knows the Rake's reputation, that they're like this with everyone.
It doesn't matter in the moment.
Kind of. Because they also see this apparent weakness. He's a slave to beauty, a slave to women. So he seems less like a focused, predatory threat to her specifically right then.
Okay, so the overwhelming attention acts like a kind of smokescreen.
Pretty much. Normally you might be cautious, sense insincerity. But if you genuinely feel like you're the absolute center of their universe, that they'd do anything for you.
You let your guard down, you don't look too closely at their motives.
Right. So where the Siren uses distance, the Rake uses this intense, focused almost smothering attention. Different path, same goal, lowering defenses.
So the key takeaway is the power of seeming completely overwhelmed by desire.
Yeah. Showing absolute dedication, ditching all reserve, appearing weak in your devotion, as long as you seem totally captivated by them.
They might overlook the potential downside.
The intensity itself is the seduction.
Okay, let's pivot again. The charmer. This sounds smoother, more subtle.
Much more subtle. The charmer is all about creating comfort, lulling the target into this state of ease. And mirroring is a big part of it.
Mirroring, like copying them.
Sort of, yeah. It's about reflecting their values, their moods, their interests, making them feel understood on a deep level. It targets the ego, vanity, self-esteem, but gently.
Not obviously flattering them.
No, it has to feel natural. The text uses that analogy of a hypnotist's watch.
Ah, right. Lulling them into relaxation makes them more suggestible.
Exactly. And this mirroring, showing you share their view of the world, it builds that connection. The source mentions this. This is even more powerful if you're an outsider coming into a group.
Why is that?
Because deliberately adopting their values feels like a conscious choice, a genuine effort to connect. It's seen as very charming.
It makes sense. We like people who are like us or who seem to really get us.
It's fundamental. And the charmer is careful not to disrupt this pleasant vibe. No complaining, no neediness.
Always calm, even under pressure.
That's a key technique mentioned. Staying composed when things are tough makes you stand out. It's attractive. No whining, no justifying yourself.
Because those things put people on edge.
Precisely. Jarring emotions. The charmer radiates calm, confidence. Disraeli charming Queen Victoria is the classic example given.
Oh, right. They were so different on the surface.
Totally. Him, kind of flamboyant, maybe a bit scandalous in his past. Her, famously reserved, proper.
And he didn't try to be someone else?
Nope. Apparently, people told him to tone it down, but he went in with gallantry, flattery. Promised her the empire, basically. Appealed to her dreams, her sense of importance.
And it worked. He made her feel uniquely understood.
That's the charmer's skill, creating that ease, that deep connection through mirroring, positivity, and subtly boosting the target's ego.
It's like casting a warm, pleasant light on them rather than a harsh spotlight.
Well put, yeah.
Okay, now for something completely different again, the dandy. This one seems paradoxical, thriving by being radically different.
It does seem that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But think about how many people feel kind of hemmed in by social rules, by conformity.
Most of us, probably, on some level.
Exactly. So the dandy, by just openly being different in how they look, how they act, they offer this sort of vicarious escape.
Like, they're doing what we secretly wish we could.
Kind of, yeah. They embody a freedom from norms that's appealing. Their boldness is the attraction.
The source gives examples like Alcibiades, Arequica, Oscar Wilde, obviously.
Wilde is the perfect case study. His whole persona was built on this elegant impudence, making audiences wait, then sort of mildly insulting them.
Only a dandy could get away with that.
Right, and Count d'Orsay burning money to find a dropped coin.
Total disregard for convention. It's audacious.
And the source makes that distinction. The Rake's boldness is about conquering a person. The dandy's is aimed at, like society itself.
So they aren't trying to charm everyone.
Not necessarily. They're challenging the status quo. And people who feel burdened by politeness are often drawn to that disregard for the rules.
The part about the dandy and bisexuality, drawing on Freud, was interesting too.
Yeah, the idea that deep down, human libido is more fluid than society admits.
And the dandy represents a release from those rigid gender roles and sexual constraints.
That's the idea presented. Not necessarily about literal orientation, but about embodying this blend of masculine and feminine traits that bypasses strict categories. It taps into something primal, maybe.
The text mentioned Shakespeare's characters in disguise.
Josephine Baker, Marlene Dietrich in men's clothes. Even the appeal of slightly feminized male stars like Valentino, Elvis, Jagger.
So blurring those lines can be inherently seductive.
Apparently so. The core idea for the dandy is making a statement just by existing differently. Defying convention is the source of their power.
Right, making a spectacle of their uniqueness.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about the natural. This sounds simply retaining childlike qualities.
It sounds simple, yeah. But the source argues that preserving those qualities, spontaneity, genuine enthusiasm, is what's so disarming. Not acting like a child, obviously.
Right, that would be weird.
But keeping that essence, that lack of inhibition.
And crucially, it's often not accidental, is it? The naturals cultivate this.
That's the key point. They recognize the power of these traits early on and consciously nurture them. They learn to play with that natural charm.
The source talks about a devilish child inside us.
Yeah, and the natural isn't afraid to let it out. Apparently, people are more forgiving of someone who's fully, unashamedly a bit silly than someone who's only halfway there.
So it's about appearing authentic, uninhibited, in a world that feels kind of guarded.
Mm-hmm. Tapping into who you were before you got so self-conscious. The advice is even to mentally position yourself as the younger, slightly less experienced one in a dynamic.
That openness, free from adult cynicism, that can be really appealing.
Surprisingly seductive, yeah.
Okay, next. The coquette. Selective withdrawal. Narcissism. This sounds like game playing.
Well, it understands a core principle. Chasing too hard pushes people away. It signals neediness.
Which isn't attractive.
Right. So the coquette master is pulling back. Being a bit cool, sometimes absent. Keeping the target guessing.
Classic hard to get.
But it's more than just teasing, according to the source. It's the emotional withdrawal that follows. That's what creates insecurity, makes the target wonder if they're losing you.
And that fuels desire, because it hits their vanity.
Exactly. Familiarity can make things feel flat. Distance engages the emotions, makes you question things.
And the other part is self-absorption. Narcissism, Freud's idea.
Yeah, Freud's theory that narcissistic women often have the biggest impact on men. The idea is, it subconsciously reminds men of their own early childhood.
When we were all the center of our own universe.
Kind of, that pleasurable phase of being happily self-contained. We lose that as we socialize, focus on others, but maybe we secretly miss it.
So the self-absorbed coquette reminds a man of that feeling, and maybe he hopes being with her restores it somehow.
That's the psychoanalytic take presented, yeah. It creates a sort of envious fascination.
So the coquette's power is this dance. Approach, withdraw, combined with a self-focus that weirdly makes them more wanted.
It's about stoking desire through absence and that hint of blissful self-sufficiency.
Moving on to the ideal lover. This is about creating a fantasy for the target.
Right. Becoming the embodiment of their deepest desires. You project an idealized version of yourself that perfectly matches what they're missing or longing for.
And the payoff is influence, power.
Significant influence, the source suggests. The power you gain when you seem to hold the key to someone's dreams.
But that feels fragile. Reality must intrude eventually.
That's the huge risk. You build this perfect image, but you're human, you have flaws, if those show.
The illusion shatters. They feel tricked.
Exactly. The text mentions Tulia d'Argona again having to skip town when her real actions didn't match her spiritual image.
And Casanova was supposedly good at avoiding that.
Apparently, yeah. He'd often end things before the mask slipped. Find reasons to leave or choose partners who were leaving anyway.
So the limited time actually helped maintain the ideal.
It could intensify it. And the source also gives the example of Musset and George Sand. Their poetic ideal crumbled under the stress of travel and sickness. Reality bites.
Sometimes distance is the only way to keep the fantasy alive then.
It seems that way sometimes. So the ideal lover needs to walk this tightrope, maintain the illusion, manage expectations, or know when to make a graceful exit.
High-stakes game.
Very much so.
Okay, the star. This feels related, but maybe more about public image, vagueness, style.
Yeah, the star operates by being this fascinating blank slate. People project their own fantasies onto them. The key is not being too easy to pin down.
Float through life non-committally.
And people will want to seize you. That's the quote, yeah. It's about radiating this captivating ambiguity. Your face, your expressions become tools.
But you also need a unique style to stand out.
Definitely. Marlene Dietrich is the go-to example. That chic, maybe slightly weird, mesmerizing presence she controlled.
It's not always dramatic, though, is it? Sometimes it's subtle things.
Absolutely. The source mentions tiny details. How you hold a cigarette, your voice, how you walk, a stray hair, a quick smile. These little things can create this huge allure, make people want to imitate you.
That harem effect idea comes up again too, doesn't it? Seeing someone as popular makes them more attractive.
Mm-hmm. That perceived desirability. And the source also talks about mass seduction, how some modern figures captivate through, well, almost through nothingness.
Coldness, nullity. How does that work?
They become these empty vessels. People project all their longings onto them because there's no strong personality getting in the way. It's a very modern kind of fame, maybe.
Wow. So the star uses mystery, a carefully crafted image, either big and bold or subtly unique to draw people in.
That's the essence of it. Control the image, remain slightly unknowable.
Okay, let's talk about the innocent, positioning yourself as childlike.
Yeah, to tap into that protective instinct we all have. Appearing vulnerable makes people want to take care of you. It's almost parental.
But there's another layer too, isn't there? Something about taboo.
Right, the subtle, maybe unconscious allure of potentially corrupting that innocence. It plays on hidden desires.
So it's a tricky balance. Look innocent, but not totally naive or helpless.
Exactly. You need to seem genuinely pure, but maybe with a hint of vulnerability that invites, well, transgression. It gives you a subtle kind of control.
Playing on protective urges and the pull of the forbidden.
That's the core idea presented for the innocent.
Then there's the savior. This sounds like it targets people who feel inadequate.
Precisely. People feeling lost, worthless, stuck. The savior identifies that dissatisfaction and presents themselves as the solution, the one who can transform them, redeem them.
Tapping into that universal longing to be seen, rescued, made whole. The source connects this to falling in love itself.
Yeah, suggesting that often falling in love comes from feeling unworthy, lacking something. The savior steps into that void, offers hope, purpose.
So the power comes from fulfilling this really deep emotional need for transformation.
Offering that vision, that escape from inadequacy. It's potent.
Now, this next one is clever. The anti-seducer, used as a tactic. Appearing harmless.
It's smart, isn't it?
Yeah.
You basically do the opposite of obvious seduction. Create distance, seemed completely non-threatening.
Why? To lower their guard?
Exactly. Disarm suspicion right at the start. It clears the way for other moves later on. You seem safe.
Like me! Seduce you, don't be silly.
Pretty much. The examples are great. Casanova acting a bit feminine to make young women comfortable.
Tulia d'Aragona focusing on philosophy, not flirting.
And Johannes, from Kierkegaard, acting all shy and harmless.
And in his case, the target actually started wishing he wasn't so harmless.
Right. It created intrigue. So the tactic is seem non-threatening initially, create safety, then make your move when they're relaxed.
Okay, creating temptation. This sounds more active. Engaging the imagination.
This is about making them think there's more to you than meets the eye. Planting seeds of mystery, encouraging them to fantasize.
Let them do the work of idealizing you.
In a way, yeah. Engage their imagination. Make them believe there's this hidden depth, this intriguing puzzle to solve. Once they start weaving their own fantasies around you, they're invested.
The example was Lou von Salome proposing that unusual threesome.
Right. That unexpected, maybe slightly scandalous idea totally captured Ray and Nietzsche's imaginations, created lasting fascination.
So it's about stimulating their inner world, making them believe you represent something richer, deeper.
Exactly. Feed the fantasy.
Next, using others. Triangular desire. Making yourself seem desirable because other people desire you. Sounds calculating.
It definitely plays on vanity and jealousy. If others want you, your value automatically goes up in the target's eyes. It sparks competition.
The harem effect again. Pauline Bonaparte with her admirers.
Andy Warhol's circle. It creates this buzz, makes you seem like a prize to be won.
And that Duc de Richelieu example with the ménage à trois.
Pretty blatant. He apparently made both women desperately want to be the favorite, playing them off against each other.
And Stendhal's advice. Pay attention to the sister to make the woman you want jealous.
A classic triangular play. So the core idea is leveraging perceived desirability. If others want you, the target is more likely to want you too.
Okay, the importance of detail. Distracting with pleasant rituals.
Yeah, this is about engaging all the senses with lots of small, pleasing things. Thoughtful gestures, nice clothes, engaging conversation, a pleasant atmosphere.
To keep them focused on the positive sensory stuff.
And prevent them from thinking too critically. It's a subtle overload. If they're constantly being charmed by little details, they don't stop to question the bigger picture.
The Empress Dowager's banquet example.
Perfect. Spectacle after spectacle, gifts, warmth. It was designed to overwhelm and disarm the Western visitors, stop them from scrutinizing.
So it's the power of small, orchestrated gestures adding up.
Engaging the senses, diverting critical thought.
And related to that, the power of clothes. More than just looking good.
Oh, much more. Clothes send signals. They're tools for transformation. The source mentions courtesans constantly changing styles.
To keep things fresh, unpredictable.
Yeah. Also, dressing to reflect the target's specific tastes that shows personalized attention, which is very seductive.
Rather than just your own style.
Right, and creating contrast, maybe dressing casually usually, but then dressing up dramatically just for them. the Cinderella effect.
That feeling of transformation, of being special.
Exactly. It taps into that desire for change, for being singled out. So clothes have a big psychological impact.
Okay, demonstrating sacrifice. Proving yourself through big gestures.
This is for when the target still has doubts about your feelings, your intentions. A grand, selfless gesture can just sweep those doubts away.
Like going to extreme lengths.
Yeah. The source says, don't worry about looking foolish. Any big deed done for them can overwhelm their resistance. Show you're willing to go above and beyond.
Meet resistance not with discouragement, but with something chivalrous or extreme.
It proves your devotion in a way words can't. It taps into that desire to feel worthy of great effort.
Makes sense. Then there's affecting regression, tapping into childhood feelings.
This is deep psychology. Guiding the target back to an earlier, often pleasurable state, maybe linked to parents or youthful ideals.
How? By acting like a needy child yourself.
That's one way to trigger their protective parental side. Or let them be the protective one caring for you.
And the other way is ego-ideal regression.
Right. Making them feel like they're living up to their younger self's dreams. Bringing them closer to the person they always wanted to be evokes those intense teenage feelings.
So it feels less parental, more like intense young love.
Yeah, maybe like a sibling bond or first love. The goal is recreating that powerful, innocent emotion. It's about fulfilling deep needs from the past.
Okay, creating the forbidden. This seems straightforward. We want what we can't have.
Fundamentally, yeah. Humans are curious about limits, set a boundary, and we immediately want to know what's on the other side.
So this tactic introduces taboo, something slightly illicit.
Exactly. It amps up the desire because it's forbidden. The source gives some wild examples. That guy's setting up his own cuckolding.
Tristan and Isolde, Eve and the apple.
Classic stories. They all show how the forbidden intensifies longing, makes it obsessive. Introducing that element raises the stakes.
Next, using spiritual lures, focusing on the sublime.
This plays on our deeper doubts, insecurities, diverting attention from mundane worries towards something higher. Spirituality, art, destiny.
Making the connection feel special, preordained.
Yeah, emphasizing divine qualities, talking about fate, transcending the merely physical. Natalie Barney using spiritual talk before getting physical.
And that monk Rustico.
Huh. Yes, using religious duty, putting the devil back in hell as a cover for seduction. Hilarious, but illustrates the point.
So appealing to something beyond the everyday can be a powerful draw.
Taps into wonder, the sublime.
Okay, mixing pleasure and pain, emotional highs and lows.
This is based on the idea that intense emotions, even negative ones like jealousy or mild anxiety, amplify attraction, alternating kindness with coldness, praise with criticism.
The push-pull again, but maybe more intense, more deliberate emotional jolts.
Seems like it. The source warns, start sweet, build affection first, then introduce the pain or withdrawal later. Byron is the example, angelic, then cruel.
The contrast makes the highs feel higher, creates dependency.
That's the psychological mechanism suggested. The emotional roller coaster intensifies everything, including the erotic charge.
Then the art of the bold move, seizing the moment.
Right. When you sense desire has peaked, hesitation is fatal, you have to act decisively, throw caution to the wind.
Because hesitating makes you look unsure or more worried about yourself.
Exactly. It kills the moment. The bold move creates this release of tension. But timing is everything.
You have to know they're ready. Richelieu's move on the Duchess, Valmont's surprise visit.
Perfect examples of recognizing the moment and acting assertively to overcome the last bit of resistance.
But then right after that, we have the importance of deferring gratification. Seems contradictory.
Not entirely. It's about the lead up to the bold move. Making them wait a bit feeds their vanity, implies they're worth waiting for.
Builds anticipation, makes the eventual yes feel more significant.
Right. It suggests your desire isn't just fleeting, but, as the source warns, wait too long.
And they doubt you're interested at all, lose interest themselves.
It's a balancing act. Strategic delay can amplify pleasure and the psychological win. Too much delay kills it.
Okay, almost there. Creating the festival atmosphere, transporting them.
Yeah, creating a whole temporary world, an escape from their everyday life, pure pleasure, indulgence, maybe a bit theatrical.
Clothes, makeup, drama, breaking rules, making it feel unreal, timeless.
Exactly. Offering a complete break from the mundane. Cleopatra's Nile trip, CG's Fantasy Palace, Errol Flynn whisking someone off to Acapulco.
Creating these immersive, enchanting interludes.
That's the power. A temporary, magical reality away from normal life. Very seductive.
And finally, using misdirection, hiding your real motives.
This is about manipulating perception, concealing your true goal by focusing attention somewhere else entirely.
Like Jackson's campaign focusing on character, not inexperience.
Or Reagan's photo ops to counter bad press. Or that fake Turkish delegation for the movie premiere. You create a compelling distraction.
A narrative or visual that hides the real play.
And the source mentions soft seduction in media too, using images, hints, not direct statements.
It's the art of subtle persuasion, influencing without seeming to.
Precisely. Divert attention, control the focus.
Wow. Okay, so stepping back from all these specific tactics, what are the big themes here based on the sources?
Well, clearly, understanding desire is huge. Not just yours, but deeply understanding what motivates the other person.
And then manipulating perception seems key. Crafting images using mystery.
Absolutely. And the strategic use of presence and absence. Knowing when to be there intensely and when to pull back. That push-pull comes up again and again.
It's quite a toolkit described in these materials.
It really is. And again, just to be clear, we've been exploring the ideas as presented, the historical examples, psychological frameworks. They offer these insights, sometimes challenging ones, into influence.
Which leads us to a final thought for everyone listening. Think about how these observations, timeless really, about human nature, might still be operating today.
Not just in romance, obviously.
Right. Think about your own interactions, group dynamics, maybe even politics or marketing. How might these strategies, these ways of shaping desire and perception, how might they still be influencing things all around us?
Definitely something to chew on.
Thank you for joining us at Wisdom House, where we bring you timeless insights from the greatest books. If you found this deep dive valuable, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wisdom House. Stay curious, stay inspired, and we'll see you in the next video.